Yeah, this is definitely going to take more than a couple days, um, or more than a day. Uh, Circumstances intervened. I got about 15 storylines going through my head right now, so we'll see where this goes. Um, while I was driving, I figured out that what I could do with these is if I take the center line of this and the center line of this, essentially take this center line to here, and then create the same length, create a square up this way. I'll do it more exactly when I actually do it. And then take that diagonal. That'll give me whatever this length is times root 2. So that'll be just long enough. And then I'll take that root 2 length, this length, extend that middle line out, create a parallel line there, extend that line to the parallel, and then take these 2 points, put them back on that parallel, and connect those 2 points back to this same base. And then what that'll do is it will allow me to bend it approximately 45 degrees. And that'll make this all work the way I want it to. But luckily, I had that drive to think about it and tinker on it. Some of the other symbols of my little excursion suggested along with the fact that I ended up buying the same exact heater that I already had, except the heater I have over there, one of the fins is bent. So now I have a new heater exactly the same where the fin is straight, which would represent fixing this broken piece, which is why I stopped with this. And this is so close, like I have all these pieces still, like I could reattach them and fan them. I could take off this metal piece and create a rim that comes out here, so that would give me a broader area. It would give me more spin because I lost some of the spin because I cut some of these fins out. I could rebuild this with a stronger material than this market basket flyer. But then I got thinking, like, I really like this just as the object that it is. I like it. Who knows, maybe I'll adjust it, but I like it as it is, and I like that it symbolically represents a turkey. It doesn't really fly, but it kind of flew, like a turkey. And it symbolizes the turkey. But anyway, so that's how I'm going to deal with this. But then it became clear because of some of the other stuff I was talking about that I got to jam out a little bit on that. I want to keep my computer up. One of the things I didn't mention last time when I was talking about different plants is when I was on my walk, I was also reminded how, like, Irish people are called limeys, supposedly because the British used to put lime in the scotch or the rum or whatever to prevent scurvy from the Irish people on British ships, whatever. It's an old wives' tale, you know. Maybe it's true. But then that sour clover, I thought might be a good way of thinking about it too. But then I was also thinking, like, black walnuts. One time I was on a job where there were black walnut trees and I didn't know what they were. I had to look it up online after what it was. But they look like limes. They're about the size of a lime. They're the color of a lime. They smell citrusy. They're black walnuts, which would have been able to grow in parts of Ireland. I don't know if they do or they don't, but it's just kind of interesting. They're also really good for cleansing parasites, worms, all that. I know they're used in tinctures. I took a bunch off the ground from that job. They were just on the ground. It's people's second house. I figured they wouldn't care. It's kind of like rocks. You can't really steal things from people's houses, but fallen fruit, just consider that free landscaping. But like rocks, you find a rock in a driveway, you like it, you pick it up. You don't even think about it. It's not really stealing. But it is, but it isn't. But most people wouldn't think twice about taking a rock from someone's driveway. Anyway. Another thing I didn't mention last time was about, when I was talking about the caste system, was about the Indian untouchables, right? So when we hear untouchables here, we think of those mob movies, and we think of the untouchables in the mob, the Dons, and all that, untouchables. But in India, the untouchables are, quote unquote, literally untouchable. They're the lowest caste. They're not, they're not worth anything, blah, blah, blah. Meanwhile, connected with what I said before, oh man, so many people are going to hate me for this, presuming anybody ever watched it. Meanwhile, little Indian equivalents of pygmy leprechauns are running the whole world from little dirt shacks in the untouchable zone. They're the untouchables that are untouchable by the untouchables. I'm not saying they're all that way, I'm just saying. There was one other thing. Oh yeah, that I didn't mention. I guess I'll get to if I get to some of this stuff. But like the presidential seal, I saw a I think I saw a bobcat for the first time in my life today. Little bobtail. Oh. This is going to be important. So I want to talk about the presidential seal and that eagle. Okay, we're going to have to take a break on that.
Isaac talked about it when he died. The last letter in the Greek alphabet.
And in early Christianity.
But you already got one.
Okay. You'll get it. Now look. What does this mean to you?
The Omega. Isaac talked about it when he died. The last letter in the Greek alphabet.
And in early Christianity.
It means Judgment Day.
Now, first of all, judge not lest ye be judged, right? Which means don't be judgmental. But that's the way we take it. But the real interpretation is judge. Go ahead and judge. And be judged. We want to be good judges and we want to be judged correctly. We want to judge ourselves for what we are. But be a good judge. Judge not means don't be a dick. Don't be hypocritical. Help people. Don't cast anybody aside. Be a good judge. Help people. A good judge knows how to help people, not how to punish them. But anyway, the Omega. So we'll get to that. Because that's part of the Raphael Code, St. Agnes, Iamblichus, all that. 300 AD-ish. But anyway, yeah, the presidential seal. It's a bald eagle, but it's a brown eagle. Well, brown eagles and bald eagles aren't the same. Bald eagles aren't brown. They're like blacky gray. So why is it a brown eagle, bald eagle? Because it's a turkey. It's a big old flashed out eagle, blue background, red, white, and blue seal. The red, white, and blue is the red, white, and blue of the turkey head with the brown body. The American wild turkey. Well, yeah, and also what I forgot to mention about the whole St. Thomas thing, and Maruga? I might have that name wrong. I'll try to annotate it later. Is that one of the mythologies that came about afterwards, after St. Thomas got there, is that sometimes St. Thomas disguised himself as a peacock to hide from Maruga. But not a peacock. Split the difference between a peacock and a rooster and you get a turkey. A turkey tom. Alright. If I don't keep fiddling with my mouse, my computer will shut down. Or it'll go into standby, but it never goes into standby, so I can't even shut it down. I just have to turn it off, unplug it, plug it back in. But anyway, the Omega. Let's say this is northern hemisphere, southern. Let's say this half right here. Let's say this right here is the top dome of the the famous school of Athens painting with all the philosophers. We have Aristotle and Plato right beside each other in the middle, which is what everybody focuses on. With Diogenes and Heraclitus down here. But anyway, right on this horizon line, at just about the right point, you have what I'm saying is St. Agnes. I got more proof on that in a minute. And I'm saying that's St. Agnes. I don't know who the philosopher is that it's supposed to be, but it's St. Agnes. All dressed in white. Can't see how long her hair is. That also is Botticelli's Birth of Venus. Out of the oyster shell, she's got all that long hair. She's draped in that long hair. Represents Agnes. Rapunzel, Raphael, which was based on Rapunzel was based on, I think, a French story, Percy, Persian, Turkey. And then also, what is it? I was going to say there's a famous statue which was associated with Cleopatra, but is supposedly really the reclining or sleeping Ariadne, who gave a long thread to, what was it, the Minotaur, to find his way through the labyrinth. But that's associated with, like, Rapunzel, let down your hair. That's something else. But anyway, if you take where Agnes is, And we take this side, which is the east, which is where Raphael is, which is where the dark-skinned man that Raphael is standing next to. Zoroaster's over here, which would be like Iraq. Then there's another figure, which I suppose is a young man, but the face looks the same, or could be the same as Agnes, and has a little shin plate with a lion on it. And the lion's a symbol of Saint Jerome, who is also from that whole Turkey region. Everything was happening in that Turkey, on the coast of the Mediterranean. All these symbols lined up with there. And like the whole, Council of Nicaea, Constantinople not too far away. Iamblichus, St. Nicholas, Holy Ghost. But anyway, if you draw a line straight up to where the circle is, you get essentially the Eisensteinian omega, which is, if you draw bang, 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 you get omega to the 0, omega to the 1, omega squared, the components you need to create the Eisensteinian complex plane grid, which is an icosahedral grid. Which sounds like a stretch. Eisensteinian omega looks like a W, pronounced like an O. O, W. Sideways W looks like a 3. 3, 3, 3. 3 to the O. 3, it's not really 3, but root 3, 1, I plus root 3 over 2. Or minus I, root 3, minus I, whatever. The omega. Now the other thing about this here is I've also said he's a prophet, prophesied Civil War, World War II. That's what I've identified, simply out of just a few of the paintings of his 16 paintings, never mind the overhead panels and all that, and all the architectural drawings and all that. But in the band that goes around that painting, it's this, delicate, decorative flourish, well, what it is, and I'll show it in a minute, is a bunch of swastikas. But there's a bunch of ornateness around them, so it doesn't really jump right out. But it's a bunch of swastikas. And right up at the top is a white dot with a red dot in the middle, which I've described before as being anytime you see white with red, that's bird's nest, wild carrot, Queen Anne's lace. The most famous and straight to the point symbol is the Japanese flag. Now I'm not saying that whoever created that flag was in on it. The prophets, I call them prophets, but they're clairvoyants, sorcerers, disciples, apostles, magi, you name it, that's what they are. You want to call them fallen angels, you want to call them guardian angels. Now there's differences. Essentially there's a very high theurgical form. Might as well call it the devil. The Leviathan of God's bad dream. I'm not saying the sovereign Leviathan of Hobbes is the devil. But we can think of the Leviathan of that type as an emergent form, where the sum is greater than its parts. Sometimes. Which reminds me of another thing I wanted to say. I don't do symbolism while I'm talking. I talk with my hands, but that's just part of what I do. But one of the ways of symbolism, this is just a side note, a footnote, but an important one of what quote unquote they can do. I can't do it, but I can catch it sometimes. I could say something like, if someone asked me a question, they said, how many people? I could say, some of the people. How many people were involved? Some of the people. Now, if I was going like this and they said, how many people were involved? Some of the people. Or I could go, how many people were involved? Some of the people. Some of the people. Maybe a little more subtly. I can't be subtle when I'm trying to do something. But the difference between some of the people and some of the people is an O or a U. With an O, it means some of the people, just like it sounds. If I go like this, then it's a U, which is a sum. S-U-M, which is all of the people. Anyway.
They were best friends. They were?
Yeah, the emergent Leviathan. I prefer, versus the Holy Ghost, which would be an expressed or an emitted, an emission from the center, whereas the devil, Leviathan, some of the parts would not come from the middle. It would come from a hemorrhage. They'd both reach the center. But the wrong thing, the high theurgical form that was incorrect, which to us would appear as God, would not be associated with the center. That's what needs to be stuffed back in to the perimeter of potentiality that ought not be. It's a threshold that we crossed. Now we need to stuff it all back where it belongs and go so far beyond it that that problem is no longer even possible. Kind of like cannibalism. Most people would say you can't really do that. Supposedly it still happens. I don't know. But it was certainly even several hundred years ago, run of the mill in a lot of places in the world. Certainly 1,000 years ago, or a couple thousand years ago. But we've more or less crossed that threshold. Doesn't mean we can't go back. And that's what's going to happen with animals too. When we stop eating animals, there will be even more extinction. People talk about all the extinctions happening in the world. They're not all necessarily bad. There are things that need to go. How far does the Serengeti effect reach? The Serengeti effect, where you put this animal here to kill or eat this animal, or you put this animal here to eat these amount of shrubs, or things balance out. But how far down does that go? Quite often I think the entire world is just being a war between battling microbiota of the gut. So affects the brain. You try to change your diet, you go crazy. I'm going crazy trying to change my diet. Trying to cut out salt, trying to cut out, sugars. If I don't, it's almost like the more you try to change, you essentially almost get like suicidal. Because these little things inside are blasting out chemicals being like, I'm not getting what I want. And I'm going to keep screwing with you till I get what I want. How far down does the Serengeti effect reach? And that's if we're just talking about organisms, never mind spiritual platonic forms and all that. And that's the thing too, when people talk, it's not just hubbub when philosophers talk about platonic forms, the realm of forms, all that. Matter washes over form. But anyway, so you have swastikas, Japanese flag, and in the disputation, a mushroom cloud.
Just stop. Nothing happened in that cemetery. You're scared. I am too. What?
Okay, that's not bad. 25 minutes. Let's see. Is there anything here?
I'm not scared. But if you tell anyone I was there, I'll break both your arms.
This is the guy who painted the famous George Washington crossing the Delaware picture. Lips, nose. Take out the face, and you have this here. It almost looks like Darth Vader. Darth Vader-ish. Not so unlike this accidental face. Or accidental half face. That actually was an accident. Alright. Yeah, here you have Dante's the Botticelli of Dante's Inferno. Upside down Capitol building. Prominently, all that hair. This is the strangest part. I haven't figured out that. I think it might be a coastline of somewhere. It's in the shape of a J. My name's Jeff. Well, yeah, another one is this here. The Constitution and the Declaration of Independence. Somewhere in here there's in assume, the word assume. If I remember correctly, it's one of these, because sometimes they made like the F symbol when it was double S's. And to my mind, that's an integral sum. And if you look at the penmanship of the Declaration of Independence, like sometimes all the different letters are made just a little different sometimes. Like some of the P's look like R's, like capital R's and so on. And anyway, I'm quite sure that that some kind of unified theory, maybe some of those famous $1 million math problems are already solved, encoded in the Declaration of Independence. It's one of the ways that Jefferson and some of the founding fathers encoded for the future who they were and what they were actually doing, and why I thought it was Ben Franklin. I think it's Ben Franklin who said like that the United States is the last hope of the world, and why. So, there's a reason why. All kinds of bad shit happened, but I've said it before, and I'm going to say it again, that Jefferson was part of the Underground Railroad before the Underground Railroad was even a thing. When he tried to cancel when he tried to eradicate the international slave trade, we'd commented on like just thinking of all the the plight of all the unborn children and so on. But people just say, oh, we own slaves, but I think a lot of those slaves, if not all of them, but a lot of the slaves were, old hebos. Been around since the invention of dirt. And they all played their parts to get here and make it happen. To complete the mission. The mission and the vision is not complete, and it's not just the ones that people are talking about. It's like when Dick Gregory said, the movements we know about, thank all the movements, the ones we know about and the ones we don't know about. Dude spent like $1,000 a week on newspapers, right? He knew. He knew better than me. But anyway, of course he knew better than me. What a dumb thing to say. All right. Ah, there we go. That's the one I was looking for. All right. Where the heck is that? Where in the heck is that in this whole mess? All right, that's down. Where the heck? Oh, right there. Okay. What folder's that in? Okay. Okay. 1905. All right. Now, what I'm saying here, let's see. Okay. Getting somewhere now. All right. Disputation.
No, not enough goop or dust.
Come on.
Uncle Jonathan.
Yeah, here we go.
Uncle Jonathan.
Now, if you look up here, we'll keep it real simple. I'll try not to get into off in the weeds and all the symbolism that's in this thing, but I've talked about it before.
I'm the one who brought Isaac back.
How this is a what I call a black Aesop face. It's also got one eye covered like a pirate.
I used your book.
That connects back to the whole Blackbeard,
Sorry.
whose ship was Queen Anne's Revenge, flew the Jolly Roger, One-Eyed Willie. That mouth, the slanted nose with the knee across it, cut like Neoplotinus, but it's not Neoplotinus, it's Iamblichus. The I, A-M-B, the I looks like an L, a lamb, the fluffy lamb, all fluffy like a lamb. But anyway, if you look at these, first it doesn't look like it, but then when you look up close, they're little swastikas. Symbol of the Japanese flag, Queen Anne's lace, wild carrot, second year, mushroom cloud. Now, this right here might be just like, oh, you're reading into that face, blah, 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 blah. I've come up with lots of references, but the kill shot, as far as I'm not the only one, is this made 115 years ago in England, based off the same story, The Golden Legend. It was a famous story written in like the 11, 12, 1300s, something like that. Guys in the Renaissance would have read it. Saint Ignatius of Loyola, the guy who founded the Jesuits, he was like, he wanted to be a general, a war person, you know, he liked to whore around, all that kind of stuff. Then his leg got hurt, he almost died, and he read about the lives of the saints. Now, I haven't heard where it was referenced that he read The Golden Legend, which is a book of the saints, but it was like super famous all through Europe, later in England. Super famous forever. So quite likely, Ignatius of Loyola changed his life, developed his whole thing, changed the world, you know, like the Jesuits, don't like the Jesuits, whatever. He is an individual. Pretty interesting. It's also interesting in like the meditations, or I forget what it's called, that he laid out for people before he even studied theology. It was like from reading about the saints and then like becoming a beggar and like meditating on God. He came up with these rules of life, but they weren't really rules. But anyway, I just found this out the other day. I haven't read it, but like how he's constantly talking about the way, which of course is the Tao, the this, that, whatever. I'm not saying that's, but like he's always talking about the way. Interesting, you know. Who was he really? But anyway, The Golden Legend, it was a huge deal for a really, really long time. And the English translation is what this painting was based on by a Cow. I just took a screenshot off this phone on my other device because I couldn't find it on my computer earlier when I looked, but there it is. What is it? Cowper, 1905. It's the angel bringing or the Holy Ghost, or I can't remember how. There's a lot of different myths about Saint Agnes, but there's I have read the one that's in the Golden Legend, the English translation. And I forget exactly how that goes, but bringing down the white robe for Saint Agnes. Long hair, white robe. A white robe that has one eye showing, a mustache. This guy's more Western looking, but a mustache, and then has all this stuff hanging over his face, beard, mustache, mouth, nose, eye. I mean, this one practically screams it. Looks like Gandalf, you know? I mean, it's unmistakable. And this flying over his nose, just like how a turkey has that thing coming down over his nose. When I found that the first time, I was like, this ain't no joke no more. This ain't just something I dreamt up 6 months ago or just some art project. Like, this is the fucking real deal. Oh yeah. Yeah. So now we'll go back to where I had out before. Except now we'll go to the disputation. So I showed the disputation, which is the painting directly across in the same room from the School of Athens. I know I've shown a lot of this before, but School of Athens. School of Athens. Saint Agnes. White robe.
That was a jump from the real Mrs. Hampshire. Lovely woman. That is before I killed her.
And then this is the person over here who I says kind of resembles Saint Agnes. Can't really see it maybe on this, but that's a little lion down there. Something that has to do with Saint Jerome. And the creation of the Latin Vulgate, which connected with the New Testament in English 100 years later. Well, that's a different connection, but then that's where it ties in Queen Anne. And again, same on this wall. Swastikas and that. That was most of what I wanted to get to. I'm just going to think for a minute if I'm forgetting something that was running through my mind. A lot was running through my mind. There's more I could get to. No, I think we'll leave it at that. 39 minutes. Sometimes it's good to get sidetracked. It is also interesting that when I left because I was cold. And then I went outside where it was colder. And I drove there and drove back. But with that time and thinking, and then just different things that my mind pinged off in that little time, and it was real quiet. It was real quiet at Walmart, barely anybody there. But just enough stimulus to ping me to say, I gotta do this, gotta do that. Anyway, I got that